Our DA leaders claim their weekend policy conference was a success, but always, as we've just shown you, hovering in the background, a tough weekend for the party with reports outlining more information about investigations and charges against a number of high-profile figures. So while the party might be espousing what it terms a clear alternative, voters and potential voters must be looking at its internal fighting, its wrangling with a degree of scepticism. So how is the former leader of the party, Tony Leon, observing things? He joins me now on Monday lunchtime. Tony Leon, good afternoon to you. And you cannot deny that perceptually, if you look at what is happening within the DA and the claims and counterclaims that are being slung about, this really is a hot mess for the party.
Yeah, I think it is at the moment, although I was in a few of those myself during my 13 years as leader, people coming and going. It's always very unpleasant when it happens, and it seems like the end of the world, and then the following week matters resume as normal. So I think correctly at the moment there is a perception of infighting and division, and there's some real background to that, but I think you could take this viewed over time. I mean, the governing party, the ANC, is in a permanent state of fractionalism. As parties expand, they tend to attract different elements, and sometimes those elements fall out, and sometimes those elements leave. That is the reality of politics here and everywhere.
I accept that, but this time around, with the resignations of three very senior people and the rhetoric that seems to be intensifying, it seems a lot more serious than in the past. It seems to me that the divisions are a lot more entrenched.
Well, I don't know if they're more entrenched or not, because obviously I'm not in the middle of it as I used to be. But I think that political parties do tend to go through these difficulties in the nature of things, but it doesn't really matter if they spend all their time looking in, because the people who are outside get, as you say, increasingly switched off. So I think if I were heading the DA today, I would be absolutely resolutely focused on the outside and spend less preoccupation on the inside.
How would you do that, and why do you think that is happening, that there's so much internal navel-gazing?
Well, I think one of the reasons is structural. The party's about, in a month or two, to elect a new leader, and I guess a lot of this has to do with positioning. I mean, the chap who left, Moody, was actually a candidate for the national leadership, and presumably he's an old political hand. He could count, and he saw he wasn't going to get elected, and there were various legal processes, so he decided presumably jumping was better than waiting. So I think inevitably when there's a high-profile contest, there is a lot of this divisiveness, and the nature of things, political contests are divisive. So I think, although voters don't have infinite patience, it's critically important what happens after the party leader is elected in November, whenever it is, and we see what he or she does to stabilize the situation with a proper mandate. I mean, at the moment, it's a bit in limbo, because although John Steenhuisen is the leader, he's an interim leader. He doesn't have a full mandate from the party. And his opponent, Trudy, isn't in the ring as an interim leader even that. So, in a sense, I think once that's resolved, the leader will have to stamp his or her authority very firmly on the party and point the direction. That's what leaders do.
Tony Leon, let me ask you this question. John Moody, Musi Maimane, Herman Mashaba, all cite Helen Zille and her return to the party and the influence that she wields over the Democratic Alliance, more or less directly contributing to their decisions to resign. How big a problem is she?
Well, I was surprised when Helen decided last October to go re-enter the party 4 months after having retired from politics in the position of chairman of the executive. But I guess that was her decision, and it was backed up by about 70% of the Federal Council, who voted for her in an open contest with Athol Trollip, which presumably is why he left. I don't know that she was the direct reason for the other departures. I was a member of a commission that looked at the party. We made some findings on the previous leadership of the party, and that might have had an impact on the happenings last year. I don't know. But the truth of the matter is that the personalities are obviously important. We look at like a horse race, you find the contestants very interesting. But it's the underlying nature of South African politics that has to be addressed by the DA and every other party. And if they come up with a credible offer, if they come up with an alternative that is boldly stated and well articulated and well reasoned, the personalities who are currently in contention will probably matter a great deal less. But, you know, that's all in the realm of the future. At the moment, as you correctly say, there's a bit of a mess, and they need to get out of it as soon as possible so they can do the work they were elected to do, which is to be the most credible opposition in the country.
You're still not answering my question about how big a problem Helen Zille is. Truth of the matter is that John Moody, Musi Maimane, Herman Mashaba all say her influence and her return to the party is the reason for them going.
Well, that, you know, let's assume everything they say is gospel, which I'm not sure is always the reason when you have a departing politician that the departing statements or exit statements are always accurate. But leaving that to one side, the fact is that, I don't know, 70% of the Federal Council, which is the highest decision-making body of the party, chose her. So whether I think it's a good, bad, or indifferent thing that she's back in the ring, they decided to elect her, and there is a Congress coming up. I mean, alongside the election leader, that same Congress will elect the chairman of the Federal Council.
Tony Leon, I'm going to come at it from a different angle because you're repeating yourself. Would the party be better off?
And I've given you an answer.
Would the party be better off without Helen Zille?
I can't answer that question because, you know, I'm just an ordinary member of the party. So I'm not going to answer the question because that's for the party to decide and for the public to vote on it. So, you know, they must do what they must do, and they must do it in the most effective manner, and they must choose the people who they wish to do it with. That's what internal party democracy is about.
All right. Okay. Tony Leon, former leader, Democratic Alliance, thank you very much indeed. Just a little after 1:30 the hour. Let me remind you of our main stories.